be careful of, because in the 1970s, the 1980s, the 1990s, Europeans could have taken certain measures. They could have quickly assimilated Muslim minorities into their various societies, and Europeans were too complacent, too unaware of the dangers of Islamism, and the numbers became larger, and so now the challenge has become bigger.
Hun advarer også USA mot å gjøre de samme feilene som hun mener Europa har gjort, ved å være et bra sted for mange muslimer, uten å prøve å assimilere denne gruppen med innvandrere. Og hun sier at i USA så ser man på disse spørsmålene som et utenriksspørsmål, mens det i høyeste grad innenriksspørsmål. But you challenge in particular three institutions in the Western society: the educational system, the women's rights movement, and the Christian churches. How should the Pope react to what you see as a kind of a war-like situation in Europe now?
I think that the Pope and the institution, the Church, should compete with the Wahhabis that are financed by a country like Saudi Arabia, so foreign powers who want to transform European citizens who are Muslim from being loyal to the countries that they have chosen to come and live and be loyal to foreign nations like Saudi Arabia and so on. So the Pope can take on that challenge and can compete with the radical Muslims by offering an alternative moral system and a better concept of a God and a church for those who are God-seeking and who are church-seeking. So to open the competition of what I call spiritual capitalism.
How should that be done?
Well, look at the number of Muslim organizations and Muslim centers that have been set up in European countries that are targeting vulnerable Muslim communities to become radicalized. I think the Pope and rational humanists and feminists can compete by setting up their own organizations and their own centers that is targeting the same vulnerable groups, but instead of offering them war and jihad and the subjection of women and the subjection of gay people, they can offer the principles of equality and tolerance and pluralism and the protection of women's rights and children's rights, and that is, I think, the best way to go about it, instead of either just talking about it, putting a taboo on it, or proposing military means.
Hun foreslår også at både paven og andre sterke makter bør være mye mer aktive i å kontakte disse gruppene også i Europa og tilby dem et godt alternativ til de tankene som har grobunn, som hun da mener. But the original title of this book, Nomad, From Islam to America, a personal journey through the clash of civilizations. It's the same clash as Huntington described in 1992 as a lecturer at the same think tank as you are working for today.
It is that same clash of civilizations. Huntington looked at the world and international relations after the Cold War, and his hypothesis was the world populations are going to divide themselves along ethnic lines, along religious lines, and on the biggest umbrella of all, along civilizational lines. And there were other thinkers who looked at the world after the Cold World War, and I think his hypothesis is the most plausible if you look at the reality about almost 20 years down the road after he wrote his essay in Foreign Affairs and later his book.
Okay, but please describe the civilization of the Muslim civilization in Europe as you see it.
Well, the clash, or rather the conflict in civilization. Well, on the one hand, you see Muslim majority and Muslim monopoly countries organizing themselves only along the fact that they share their Muslim identity, the Organization of Islamic Conference. Immigrants who left those countries in search of a better life, who've come to the West, are now being wooed, they're now being lured to come back and to magnify their Muslim identity and to reject the values of the countries that they have come to. That kind of a friction along religious, ethnic, and especially religious lines or civilizational lines is something also that Huntington had described in his book in 1993. And I think if we had listened to him at that time in Europe, the European countries would have established institutions and would have put in place programs that would help absorb Muslim immigrants much faster into Western societies than be complacent and just leave them almost, I would say, in the hands of the radical Islamists.
Should they leave the countries in Europe?
No, I don't think that they should leave the countries in Europe, but I still think that that program of integration, of absorption into society should be put in place. Those who will have to leave the country are those mature adults who, when they compare Muslim civilizational values with Western civilizational values, who choose to live by Muslim civilization, those are the ones who have the option. If you want to live under Sharia law, the best thing to do is to go and live in a country where there is Sharia law.
Hirsi Ali mener også at de voksne muslimene som er kommet til Europa, og som mener at sharia-lover og de landene de kom fra tidligere er å foretrekke framfor de landene de er kommet til Europa, faktisk bare kan reise tilbake. Og is this confrontation the right strategy? Don't you feel the rightist aggression against the Muslim in Europe and USA?
Right now there is no aggression against Muslims in Europe or the USA. There is a debate, there's a very honest debate, and it's becoming more and more, the contours are becoming, people are taking more and more positions, clearer positions in that debate. It's not to criticize Islam, to criticize the political agenda of the people who want Sharia is not to be aggressive toward Muslims. It is to invite Muslims to make a choice. Do you want the rule of law or do you want to live under Sharia law? And I think most Muslims, if they understand both systems of law, will choose the rule of law. But that is why I'm saying those who are understand the rule of law and should have started the competition with the Wahhabis, with the radical Muslims.
We will have a debate about your book now in 30 seconds. But before you leave us, how do you look upon your own future? I mean, writing another book that is kind of controversial, in fact more controversial than you ever have written, according to some reviews.
Well, the debate...
No, about your security, your own security. You don't choose a very easy life then.
I do, and I do it in the sense that I live within the parameters of the security that is provided to me. But again, it proves the point that it is not aggression toward Muslims, but the debate, the more clear it becomes, the more violent the radical Muslims get. So it's not really only about me, it is about all of us.
We will discuss some aspects of your book now, but that will be in Norwegian, so thank you, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, forfatteren av Boka Nomade.